I have devoted my life to advancing the cause of Labor.
Taken from the scanners, they swear that as soon as the image is taken and as soon as a security guard or a TSA member looks at it, they dispose of the picture and it's gone forever. Well, earlier this year, the U.S. Marshals Service admitted that they had actually stored 35,000 images at a scanner at a security checkpoint at a Florida court.
Certainly what we rejected is this hysterical allegation that somehow that we are moving towards a carbon tax from the Liberal and their advertising. We certainly reject that.
But with Kevin Rudd circling, she's already busting numbers back in Canberra.
I enjoy the strong support of my colleagues.
He gave no specific warning to the government until 3 hours before the grounding.
As of Saturday, the only industrial action that was taking place was pilots wearing red ties. That was the only action that was taking place and making announcements to their members.
You're right, I didn't go through the potential of the...
You had a big stick behind your back and you didn't show it to anybody.
But Alan Joyce says he has legal rights to...
Devious about the fact that you're aiming at a lockout.
Sorry, Senator.
That's good, because I think you've got a lot of explaining to do as to why you have a rogue employee.
And talk about that under any forum, anywhere, because it was the wrong... We anticipate that there will be 500 positions affected by the immediate changes that we have announced today. But let me clarify that there will be no jobs going offshore, not one.
I enjoy the strong support of my colleagues.
Mate, this is just impossible. I get to the very end,
Yes, he rolled back important economic reforms, but at least, Mr. Speaker, he stood for something. All this Prime Minister stands for is herself and her ambition, and that is why she has been such an incompetent and untrustworthy and unworthy Prime Minister over this last 12 months.
The mission of Labor after Monday's ballot will be to unite, to get on with the job, to get on with the reform program that I've outlined.
The decision was a board endorsement, it was my decision. Financial discipline, and we are well placed to handle the complex economic and competitive environment.
Can I say more broadly on the question of personal attacks? I just emphasise again what I said before. Whatever our different political views, whatever they are, you know, across the Australian political landscape, there is a place for civility.
The Prime Minister went back to school for an important lesson.
Was it her steely resolve, or her back against the wall, or maybe just the real Julia?
Well, I'll answer your question, but I'm not listening to this rudeness. I'll answer your question and then I'll give a question to your colleague. Thank you very much. I'm not going to have you just speak to me like this. End of sentence.
Being more focused on core challenges facing the government, yes. Could I have delegated more? Yes.
I mean, this is the circumstance of Kevin always having to have an event for the day, but you always wonder where the strategy is going to lead.
Qantas Group plans for growing with Asia continue to evolve. We are making excellent progress with our 3 Jetstar franchise Asian airlines based in Singapore, Vietnam and Japan. We continue to evaluate the options for establishing a premium airline in Asia. Mindful of global uncertainty and consistent with our focus on conserving capital. However, the focus in this area will be on a capital-light model.
And so when everyone gets a bit bamboozled by the shock and awe tactics of, wow, here's an avalanche of attacks, Kevin Rudd is the Antichrist Incorporated, and if not the son of Satan, then at least the grandson of Satan, just have a little pause for thought. It may not quite be like that. No secret that our government has a lot of work to do if it is to regain the confidence of the Australian people. Rightly or wrongly, Julia has lost the trust of the Australian people, and starting on Monday, I want to start restoring that trust. That's why I've decided to contest the leadership of the Australian Labor Party at the ballot in the caucus of the Australian Labor Party on Monday. I want to finish the job the Australian people elected me to do when I was elected by them to become Prime Minister.
There will be no carbon tax under the government I lead. Leadership is about delivering against the odds and in the face of adversity. It's about having a plan for change and then delivering on that plan.
Time of his execution, that Rudd had to be removed from office because he couldn't hack it, that he couldn't do it, that there was something wrong about him that made him unfit to be Prime Minister. Now, none of that was said. The collective failure of the party from the time of the great victory in 2007 to Rudd's execution in 2010.
But you're very obscure and devious about the fact that you're aiming at a lockout.
Sorry, Senator, I think that's absolutely inappropriate to say.
But did he break consumer laws?
A day of reckoning. Because this is one of the biggest calls that have been made by corporate Australia to actually destroy parts of the economy to get your way.
Questions yesterday speaking about extreme union action when it was a lockout by the employer. This side of the House makes no difference whether you have a suit on or a blue collar. Extreme action, not in the national interest, will be condemned by this side of the House. Yeah. And indeed I said...
Senator Nick Xenophon wants to make Jetstar service all its aircraft on home soil. But
Leadership Eve pitch for the Prime Ministership.
If Julia is returned on Monday, then she will have my unequivocal support between now and the next election.
What Kevin obviously struggled to do when times were a little bit politically tough, particularly in 2010, was to run a government with any sort of method or purpose or discipline, or internal processes, ability to get things done. That's what I have sought to rectify as Prime Minister.
Julia Gillard has won the ballot, 71 votes to 31. I've just formally declared Julia re-elected as the leader of the Parliamentary Labor Party.
And now, after weeks of infighting, it's suddenly all about unity.
Once the votes were read out, there was a certain amount of relief on the faces of members and senators. I think they see this as now the vehicle by which they move forward.
Now, the key decision for Gillard is how wide to make her ministerial reshuffle. With Rudd heading to the backbench, some changes will be necessary.
Tell that bloody interpreter.
The Condé Nast Traveller magazine has rated Australia's busiest airport as 48.2 out of 100. Sydney trails well behind 9 other international airports, including Singapore and Tel Aviv.
We should be proud of our record and not undermine it.
But then Mr. Joyce himself had to race to the airport.
Chase him out the building, go for it.
He's a household name these days and a hero to many in big business.
Go Virgin.
But not to everyone.
At Parliament House, Alan Joyce is a hero to some, but a villain to many others. So today was always going to be a day of reckoning. Because this is one of the biggest calls that have been made by corporate Australia to actually destroy parts of the economy to get your way.